now it's time for Connor's Conspiracy Corner.
Dun dun dun. There is another world beyond that which is known to the average man. It is a world that is as dark and as unknown as the void. A world where the ones with true power pull the strings behind the curtain of depravity. Take a journey with us into this world as we peer behind the curtain and look into the eyes of fear itself. Welcome to the Clone Zone.
So anyway, many of you may
done.
be asking yourselves, how did we end up on the topic of clones this evening?
Tell us.
Well, I initially approached Connor about tackling these Connor Conspiracy Corner segments together, where we'd both kind of do some research and kind of collaborate on it. And we were originally going to do this on celebrity replacements and clones.
Yep.
Like Avril Lavigne,
Yep.
Paul McCartney. I'm sure you guys have all heard about celebrities that are dead and have been replaced. But we stumbled upon one particular individual.
He's a special man.
Yeah.
So, you want to get this started?
Go for it.
Okay, so we're going to take you back just a little bit. Starting in 1997, there were, everybody knows about this pretty much, embryologists at the Roslin Institute in Scotland. They finally successfully cloned a young sheep, Dolly.
Dolly.
Everybody knows
Dolly.
about Dolly,
Yeah.
right?
Dolly, first clone.
They used a cell taken from the mammary gland of an adult sheep. And right after they did that, Bill Clinton was president, and he hated it, right?
Yeah, what did he say? What did Bill Clinton say about it?
Along with all of, we'll get into that.
No,
But
he said
Bill
it raises-
Clinton's exact quote was, the cloning of Dolly the sheep raised, quote, serious ethical questions, particularly with respect to the possible use of this technology to clone human embryos.
Just want to say, Bill,
Bill
rich talking about
Lecturing us.
yeah, about
on
morals.
ethical
ethics.
decisions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
So Clinton, along with several other world leaders, called for a ban on human cloning. That didn't think we'd ever have to worry about that. But so all of this is going on. You know, Dolly was cloned, and unknown to the general public at the time, there was a man, okay? A man who was about to break the dam and allow the truth to flood out.
Oh, shit.
Okay? He has been called Onimusha,
What? By who?
the Dragon Slayer.
Who calls him that, though? Himself?
We'll get there. The man who calls him that is himself.
Okay.
A man named
That's what I thought.
Donald Marshall.
And in December 2nd, 2011, Donald posted to Facebook a post titled, "To Read Part 1, Confessions of Donald Marshall." This is no hoax. This is no joke. My name is Donald Marshall, and I've been cloned by a large secretive cult known as the Freemasons and the Vril Society and the Scientologists together called the Illuminati. They make replicated bodies to victimize in terrible ways. They clone children for men with underdeveloped penises to have
my
sex
God.
with.
What?
Some very famous politicians and politically powerful people all gathered together for a disgusting time.
How horrible.
A
Now,
disgusting time.
Donald Marshall, obviously with that quote, you can see he claims to have seen this, witnessed this
And
firsthand.
then he is
okay?
a clone, right? That's what he's saying?
He doesn't know this yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he says that there are elite scientists all over the world, and the reason now these are not. This isn't a direct quote. I'm more just going to paraphrase what he said, but he said that the reason nobody ever talks about any of this is because the cloning centers are very deep underground in secret military science bases.
They're
right?
so deep, people can't
Right?
find them.
yeah, okay.
They're so deep underground.
Mole people.
And because they're deep underground, the world leaders never acknowledge it.
It's like oil.
So nobody asks the world leaders about it.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Coherent.
They don't.
correct?
It's like
Sure.
it's like if you suspected your partner of cheating, and every time they said no, and even if you knew it wasn't
No,
true,
it's-
you'd just be like, "Oh, well, they deny it, so why even ask?"
It's not even that. It's just that you suspect your partner is cheating,
Underground.
but you don't ask. You wait for them to bring it up, and they never bring it up, so you never.
just
Oh, well, they
never
didn't
ask.
tell me that they were.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Or they didn't tell me they wanted to know about cloning, so I just didn't tell them about the cloning. That's nonsense.
Okay.
But so Donald Marshall remembers visiting these secret military bases as a young child. Now that may sound odd,
Yes.
right?
Are his parents
What
military?
kind of young child goes to these secret underground military bases to look at clones? Okay, it just so happened that Donald Marshall was a clone. and that's why he was in these military bases,
wanna
witnessing
see-
this firsthand.
I want to see like a cutesy little like coming of age of
Yeah.
him like
Marshall.
playing tricks on people as a little kid growing up in these underground. Like,
I don't think that
clone
exists
bunkers.
because Donald Marshall's parents sold him off to the Illuminati when he was 5 years old.
Gotcha.
They immediately cloned him, and
Are his parents still alive? How do they feel
There is-
about
there is
it?
a shockingly little amount of information
about
of
Donald
him.
Poor
Marshall as a
parents.
child.
And
They're
you
probably
know,
like loving.
It's probably
like
because
wonderful
he is a
people.
clone,
Yeah,
but that's another.
that's fair. It's a good point.
So basically, it wasn't until he was much older that he figured out that he was a clone. Okay,
Does he not
was-
have a belly button?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They don't
We
need
might
one.
be able to get
you
him
don't
on the
need one, so they don't
podcast.
give him one.
We might be able to get him on the podcast for an interview.
We were actually reading on one of his websites or something
Yeah.
that he might be willing to get on a Twitch stream.
You guys.
It's a slippery slope, though. Like,
Yeah.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
if this guy, it
I
seems
don't
like
wanna
he's mentally ill, and I
So
don't-
let's invite him into our home.
He's
Yeah,
either
exactly.
mentally ill or trying to profit off
Yeah,
of this, and maybe a little
or-
bit of both.
Yeah.
either way.
But I don't want to necessarily promote conspiracy theories,
And
which
he
is why this
doesn't-
is a joke segment.
Yes.
But, anyway, continue.
Which
John.
we should stress.
Yeah, we don't believe.
we don't believe
This is all
Yes,
nonsense. We're
yeah.
just doing it for pure entertainment purposes. So, I'm going to give you a little description of the clone rooms, and then we're going to jump into how the clones are made and what types of clones there are. So,
Oh shit.
basically, it wasn't until he was much older that he realized he was a clone when he was being given a tour of what he calls the grow rooms.
you know, there's other
A deep
other
level
things that are called
underground.
that too.
Right.
A deep level underground. No shit. He already mentioned that, right? Entire floors where human clones are grown in the dark. Okay? Suspended in water in stacked glass tubes. So just
Water kills things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not clones.
Okay.
Obviously.
They
While
don't need to breathe
while they're
air.
growing their
Okay.
they
Yeah.
probably got tubes hooked up to them and shit.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Like the Matrix.
yeah,
Why
there's-
isn't it
they're
like
in-
amniotic fluid of all? Like why
Right.
just straight up water?
Water.
Yeah.
Because Donald Marshall is just like fluid water.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
exactly.
All
It's
right.
not Dr. Pepper.
He says a
clearly.
lot of other questionable things.
No,
Well,
you don't say.
Pretty much. I mean, like things that like we'll get into it. Okay. Okay. So he says that they're in these suspended glass tubes in water, and he says the grow rooms are dark, dirty, and reek of the smell of urine. He explains that
Why?
elite scientists, because
Why does it smell like urine or like
Exactly.
hobos
They're in
pissing in
tubes.
there?
There's no
What is
toilet.
going
that's what I'm
on?
saying. He just
There's-
says stuff like this that when you really think
there
about
is
it,
no
it doesn't
reason
make
for
any
anything to
sense.
smell like urine.
And they're in tubes.
Yeah.
Like, and even if they were peeing, which they're not,
No.
because they're not even fully
No.
grown clones yet.
Right.
Whatever. He basically says that the elite scientists usually create a series of the same clones at a time. So they'll copy one person over and over again, and they'll select the best and dispose of the rest. And this is where it's shocking. It makes it easy for them to create these multiple copies of the same person because cloning only requires 5 months and $30 to reach
Wait.
full.
This is according to
Wait.
Donald.
That's
What
a
is
direct
his,
quote.
can I see his math on that?
I don't
like,
think
I
you
need
can
to see
because
his breakdown.
I don't think he has the math done.
So
but
for
he
some
knows
reason, this only costs
Okay.
$30,
it only takes
and only
5
the
months
richest
and
in
30
society are
and
doing
he
it.
doesn't even say dollars. He just says $30. So maybe he's not even referring
He's talking about
to
deer.
Yeah,
You have
to kill
maybe
30 deer.
yeah, maybe you have to sacrifice $30. Anyway,
Okay. All right.
so from there we're gonna move into the types of clones. So we learned how they were made in these glass
Right.
tubes. I think they used to need discarded foreskin or something else.
Paps. They used to use
yeah.
pap smears
Yep. Or
and
discarded,
foreskin.
But now they
So
just need your
cervical
blood.
tissue,
They use cervical tissue, I guess.
swabs of cervical tissue,
Yes, or
and
foreskin.
Foreskin.
I assume cervical tissue to
Yeah.
create the
foreskins.
women and foreskin to create the men, but who knows?
But
Okay,
now advancements in
okay.
cloning technology means they only need your
Alright.
blood.
they only
okay.
need your blood, yeah.
So there are two different kinds of clones: replication clones and duplication clones.
Mhm.
Okay.
Of course.
With the replication clones, these scientists create ideal conditions for new life to grow in a lab. Okay.
Mhm.
And
Air conditioners. and
whatever they do, oxygen,
Yeah.
that kind of
shit.
stuff.
Water.
Yeah, water. Whatever they do, it results in a perfectly formed baby clone. Okay.
All
This is
right.
the extent of the description of what they do.
Okay,
I'm just letting
okay,
you know
okay.
that right now. This process is time consuming, way more time consuming than duplication clone, and the baby will still need to grow and develop just like any other human. So basically, it's not really. It's more just creating life in a lab and not like
Right.
copying somebody
Right.
else's
Yeah.
Right,
DNA.
right, right.
Yeah.
You know. Duplication is obviously the process where we snag up Dan. We take
And we make
his,
2 Dans.
We take his discarded foreskin,
Which I know Paige has been wanting. She's like, hey, give me 2 or 3 of them around here.
for some potion brewing.
Yeah, exactly.
So we would copy Dan, and they can be grown quickly, very quickly, as he said, 5 months and $30. And they can even be used immediately after that 5 months and $30 are gone. So
It's cheaper than a regular baby.
that's
it is. Shit.
that's a duplication cloning, and you can see that in the 2005 futuristic sci-fi thriller The Island. One of the best movies
What?
ever made. This is literally straight from his
The
manifesto.
Island isn't about
And
clones.
hold on,
is
let me
it?
read.
The Inception and The Island are both written about.
Um,
No, this is.
At age 30, they allowed me to remember these clone memories, and now every time I enter REM sleep, I am there. I don't have dreams, I only have clone memories. And the movie The Island and Inception is about this subject. They think they're very sly and untouchable.
Straight from Donald Marshall. himself.
That's his continuing reading. To read part 1, Confessions of Donald Marshall.
Okay.
So in reality, though,
Quote unquote reality.
clone organs are grown way too fast and are not
Way too slow
viable.
down.
They're not viable for use in actual organ transplants. So you can't clone their organs and keep just transplanting it.
Why
and
not?
Make them. This is Donald Marshall.
You
he doesn't.
ask a lot of
Because they
why?
grow too
No,
fast.
they're great questions, but
But,
the
yeah.
problem is
Connor's
that
sane.
the problem.
I'm trying. I'm asking because
yeah.
maybe he has an answer. Maybe he's got some bullshit. That's why I'm asking.
If he has an
No,
answer,
he has no answers for
He's
most
not telling anyone.
So they grow too fast. Do they continue to grow too fast? Like, does your clone age twice?
We're
as
not
fast
elite
as you?
scientists.
Yeah, we're not privy
You know?
to this
I have
information.
so many questions.
And honestly,
we do
Connor and I
too.
are probably just clones that are
Yeah.
don't know
And
shit.
see, that's
I
the
don't know.
thing
I've
is
got
that
a belly button.
Honestly, the original me and Connor's probably found out too much about this, and then they had to off us.
That makes
so
sense.
Probably headed down the same path as
Donald
clones.
does have one claim though. The science behind this human cloning is very, very flawed. They have a lot of kinks to work out. Okay, basically these clones have serious side effects. They tend to be unpredictable and erratic, and have almost little to no impulse control. And so, if he's been a clone this whole time and he just figured it out when he was 30 years old, he said,
right.
Dan, would you tell us a little bit how he survived this? How he made it this far to be able to
So he
bring us
talks about the
truth?
cloning factory, and and honestly, it's pretty gruesome. He describes it. It is basically a torture and child molesting factory. I was one of those children, but when I was young, to keep the perverts off me, I started singing songs, original songs,
Yep.
very good ones. They told me to keep making these songs, and I wouldn't get hurt, and so I did.
What?
Then they started bringing me there every day, and as these celebrities wanted more, they called me the goose that laid the golden egg, the phenomenon. But I ran out of ideas. Then the torture began. They smashed my face to start throwing me around, scaring me, a 5-year-old, never letting me remember until in real life I turned 30. The torture worsened until I began stabbing. The torture worsened until I was being stabbed and burned, repeatedly sodomized. And then he goes on to describe at age 30, they allowed him to remember these clone memories in his REM sleep, as I
Yeah,
used to
so
quote
that's the
earlier.
thing. What they say is that basically with this REM sleep cloning thing, he is, which we'll get into, I guess, as much as we can find out about how this works in part 2, whenever we do that.
Well, don't spoil it. But
I'm not going to spoil it, but there's something we'll learn about in that section that will help
be a
us
part 2 of
explain
this,
how
guys.
they do this.
Okay.
But basically, they use that REM cloning and they transfer their consciousness to the clone bodies when they are
Right.
in REM stage of sleep.
Right. So
Okay.
basically, Donald
All right.
avoided, in order for Donald to endure, what Donald had to do was start singing songs. And I mean, Donald might just be the greatest hit maker of all time, right, Connor?
I can
At
list
5
off
years
a few.
old,
Yeah,
right?
at 5 years old.
Okay.
At 5 years old, now I have a very decent sized list, probably almost 20 songs.
Give us the
I'm going to give you the
highlights.
top ones, okay? Single Ladies,
by Beyonce.
Sweet
I
Dreams
mean,
by Beyonce.
Donald Marshall.
Donald Marshall, sorry. Duck Sauce, Barbara Streisand.
Which I think is from Funny Face.
Somebody
wrote
That
these
I
songs.
Used to Know by Gautier.
Wait, how did he write Funny? How
He
did
just
write
wrote it. He wrote it, and Gautier
I
was
think-
holding on. Or
no.
I mean, Duck Sauce.
He's not old enough, is what
Yeah,
you're
he's
saying?
not old enough. That movie came out probably before or around.
Yeah,
the
well,
time
he was probably a clone, you know what I
Okay,
mean?
sorry.
This is
Sorry.
largely our point of this entire
Go
thing.
ahead, continue.
Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier. A Megadeth song, Foreclosure of a Dream. A Metallica song, Unforgiven.
A Metallica song, Unforgiven.
Happiness and Slavery by Nine Inch Nails. Drain You by Nirvana. Shut It Down by Pitbull.
Kitfoot.
The most diverse and talented songwriter
Truly.
Never Say
At
Never by The
5 years
Fray.
old.
of like
Some
five
of these
people's
songs,
generations.
I don't want a 5-year-old singing. I don't want to hear a 5-year-old's Nine Inch Nails. Like,
You're gonna go
fucking
far by The
song.
Offspring.
You're gonna go far, kid. Yeah,
Oh
So-
my god.
This is how he was able to stay alive, basically.
by writing these songs and
And he does
getting them
also
celebrity,
mention how he was
making the
forced to come
Illuminati
up
money.
with movie ideas, with game ideas, because he kept giving them gold.
He kept giving it like Bethesda was
Yeah.
some of Bethesda.
Now we can't find any examples of actual video game titles or movie titles that he
we
actually
couldn't
thought
find what
up,
he thinks that he.
but he does
He
say
lists. He name drops
Okay.
Bethesda,
yeah, he
Okay.
name drops Bethesda and LucasArts.
LucasArts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
Attack of the Clones, I think might be one of them.
I think Attack of the
Interesting.
Clones isn't that one of the movies about.
Oh, that might be
I think
that might be
so. I
Astral
think
Light
Donald.
stuff.
That might. Don't touch into Astro.
I'm not touching
There's
it,
a
yeah.
whole nother realm to this conspiracy world. Let's just leave out the
Yeah,
Attack of the Clones
we'll
for now,
we'll
so we
stick
can
with the
verify.
movies.
We gotta stick to the facts.
Oh no.
We know he wrote the songs.
Yeah, so and
For a
on,
fact.
and on top of these songs, he claims that there are several huge celebrities around the world that are either in on it or are clones themselves.
Right.
Okay.
Whether that's willingly or unwillingly, we will never know.
Do you have a list of them?
I have a few of them. I didn't want to go into too much because there are a lot of them.
I want
Give us
to
a
hear
couple.
some. I want to
Give us a couple of the celebrities, and then
Well, here's a couple of the big ones, and I got a story about one of them. Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Okay.
Bernie Mac. You guys may
Okay,
remember from
so
the Bernie
now
Mac
this
show or
is-
Charlie's Angels.
I am going to read a direct quote that Donald Marshall posted on either his little manifesto thing that he wrote or I don't know where, but it's pretty nonsensical, so buckle your seatbelts. He's talking about being in like the cloning station basically. So one good person there was Bernie Mac, comedian and actor, tried to stand up for me, speak up for me, saying that it's not right to do to a human being. Tried to have others join him in speaking out against the clone torture zone. While there, Elizabeth and Philip, Queen Elizabeth, and
Oh, okay. Okay.
Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
Yep.
I actually have a bit about that.
Elizabeth and Philip had him tortured so badly as an example of their power, and he had an aneurysm, and the next day he died.
Wait, hang on. Are Elizabeth and Philip clones too?
Well, hold on.
Is this layers?
So they're
That's coming up.
They might be
Torturing
clones, but let me get into this. Is again
Let
from
me name a few celebrities.
yeah.
first,
Okay, and then
Yeah.
we'll move into
because
okay.
that's what's next.
keep,
Okay,
keep
so
the
Bernie
Queen's
Mac.
name out of your mouth.
So
okay?
yeah, my mistake.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac's the main one, right? He backed
The good
up.
guy.
He backed up Donald Marshall
Yeah.
until they had him killed.
Yep.
R.I.P. Eminem's another one.
Fair enough.
Britney Spears, Avril Lavigne.
Makes sense.
Oddly, Chloe Grace Moretz from the Kick-Ass movies, right? That's what
Yeah,
she's
That's
in.
weird.
and
but okay.
Carrie.
Yeah. Steph
Oh.
Curry, James
See-
Franco, Oprah's boyfriend,
Good.
Steve Harvey.
Oprah's one and only boyfriend.
Yep, that's it. Doesn't deserve a name.
Steve Harvey, Dr. Oz,
Oh Jesus.
Oh, I
Bono.
believe Dr. Oz. Actually.
Bono, and quite possibly everyone else that you love.
All right.
So, that's the end of the celebrities. Now, let's talk about
Queen
who
Elizabeth?
pulls the strings. Who's
who's
the
at
one
the
that's
heart
in
of
charge
this,
of
right?
all of this, right?
The royal family.
Well, let Don tell you in his own words here. Now, let me tell you about the ringleaders. As unbelievable as it may be to you, but you must believe me, this is a world emergency. The royal family of England.
Yep.
Yes, Queen Elizabeth,
God damn.
Philip Duke, Prince Charles are the worst of them. Unbelievable depraved perverts showing off for the celebrities that go there. Elizabeth has Elizabeth has the children. They call her Lilibet, and she does ungodly things to them. Some she fakes being nice to. Some she's terrible to. Cutting them with swords while they scream.
Can you imagine?
swords?
I don't know if that's
Can you
literal.
imagine little tiny 90-year-old hunched over Queen Elizabeth like
Cutting
hitting
people with
kids with swords?
The
Just
decent-
like cackling.
The decent people that are there against their will be afraid to say anything against them. Most of them have their children there and are being kind of held hostage. To be torn apart and even think about informing anyone. To be torn apart if they even think about informing anyone.
God.
And then also, I don't know if this is the right time to talk about Miley.
That's actually the next part. Yeah.
Okay, do you want?
Basically, after we figure out that these hugely high-ranking people. I think Philip. I think Putin's in there too.
Yeah, he does go on to talk about Vladimir Putin. I don't know if. Oh, here we go.
This is a good one.
Vladimir Putin loves to put the fear and torture and death into people, but is essentially a cowardly pervert himself.
Is this because of all the shirtless pics?
He hates communism.
Most of the famous people are ashamed to speak or have been seen, but there is much ashamed of the perverse and disgusting gatherings. I am a decent person, and I will not participate in these acts.
For somebody that thinks that like the royal family as well as the United States government participate in this, why hate communism of all things? Like you've seen other forms that you think are worse.
Now, you
Not
may
that
be
I'm saying it's good.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean. You may be thinking Donald Marshall says all of this stuff, right? He talks this big talk, but how's he going to back it up?
Well,
what evidence does he have that this is actually happening?
Well, I want to quote a 2013 post. Now, this isn't Don's own words again, but this isn't from the same post. Miley Cyrus was talking about the cloning center last night. She said that she's going to be needing songs, and then I will be making them. I said, no, I will not be making any more songs. She said, yes, you will. I said, Miley, you're going to be in some lot of trouble in the future if you keep silent about the alien body snatching crisis. She said, I'll just say I was scared. Aliens, hello. And she chuckled.
Now we're on to alien body snatching?
Well, they're like lizard people, alien. It's complicated.
It is escalated. I like to imagine that he's like, listen, I used all of my songwriting juices on Achy Breaky Heart. That's all you get. That's all you get from me, Cyrus's.
And Metallica and Megadeth.
But moving on to like some more substantial concrete evidence from the horse's mouth,
Let's call it
some
that.
would say. We do have Tila Tequila, everybody's favorite.
Nobody likes every Nazi.
No, it's everybody's favorite.
Backing up Don's statement.
She is a neo-Nazi.
Let's hear it.
That happened?
Yeah. Well, let's hear it in Tila's words. It's really bad audio quality.
Since you're fucking with my program, darling, Queen Elizabeth, and the pedophilia ring, and the cloning centers. That's right, darling, the cloning centers. Parents, listen to me right now. They are blocking me, but that is quite all right. They're blocking me, but that's quite all right. Because I have many, many other forces. I should not say their names right now. We have many big plans.
How much ketamine did she consume?
Right.
All of you disgusting, sadistic fucks. Okay? That is all.
All right, so that's where we're going to pause that. That's an 13-minute video of Tila Tequila.
A neo-Nazi?
This is about...
Clearly it's concrete evidence.
Also, clearly she's sober.
Yes.
Honestly, that's not any more evident by the way she sounded. Anyway, so that's Don's evidence. That's pretty much...
Oh, no, he's got some more.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A few tweets by B.O.B. You remember that rapper?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
Notice a celebrity who have tattoos or piercings missing or mysteriously vanish equals cloning center.
Oh.
When a celebrity in great health suddenly suffered a stroke, heart attack, or aneurysm equals cloning center. Hundreds of kids go missing each year equals cloning center.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And unfortunately, these people really do believe this.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of the comments on like this Tequila video.
Boy.
Do we want to do some of that?
First, what is Tila Tequila famous for? She was like a stripper or something,
I know,
right?
she was on that one show where she dated
she had,
people or something.
like Flavor of Love or something like that.
She had one of those kind of shows.
First comment besides the poster's comment says she's telling the truth. She's obviously not the perfect messenger. Unfortunately, there's a very blind mentality with people who believe that the world is a perfect place. No one cares. Someone needs to speak up for these children. I find it, and then the second comment says, I find it very disturbing that the audio in this video has been tampered with.
Tampered with by ketamine.
They say Bernie Mac was killed because he asked too many questions about the cloning centers. I almost said Bernie centers. Anyway, Connor.
I've got a few more comments on a video that Donald Marshall, basically, he didn't post it, but it's somebody reading in like a chipmunk voice the article that Dan was quoting, or the manifesto thing that he wrote that Dan was quoting earlier. Some of the comments say, Well, for one, just very simple. He's telling the truth. This shit happens.
Oh.
Donald, I cannot imagine what you've been through. I believe you, and I am protected by the Holy Spirit. Contact me somehow.
Are they
Hold
Catholic?
strong.
Is he Catholic?
Either that Don's not.
Do other Christians do the Holy Spirit, or is that just Catholics?
Oh, not. Let's take a quick side.
Let me also. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Donald's first, the first Facebook post that we mentioned from December 2nd, 2011, is 3,880 words long.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
And some of those words, which I'm just gonna take a quick tangent. I can't find them right now because, as Dan just said, it's a lot. But real quick, I was listening to that video that's basically just the comments that I'm reading, where they're just reading his letter that he wrote. Mm-hmm. And in the letter, he talks about how he finally was going to come forth with this letter and release it to the public and say, this is what's happening. And the Illuminati and all of those people in the cloning centers, they were telling him, don't do that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it.
We're going to have to torture you more if you do that. You're not coming up with hit songs, hit movies, hit games anymore. You don't have much use.
Skyrim's already been out. We can only put it on so many more
We
platforms.
need another Miley Cyrus hit stat.
So Donald, in the face of evil, he stood strong and he said, I'm going to release this video. And then in his own words, he said that they gave him a quote shin bone spinal tap.
What?
A shin bone.
Does he know what a spinal tap is?
Yeah, he doesn't know where spines are located.
He knows what a
though.
shin bone spinal tap is.
What is a shin bone spinal tap?
It is where they drill a hole in your shin, and he said they sucked the marrow out of his shin.
That is nothing. It's not.
And then
I'm surprised he wasn't. They lobotomized my
right?
shin.
the spine of your shin.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then he said,
right.
he said, you know, we're gonna do this to you, and if you release that letter, and he said, do it. I'm still gonna release the letter, and they did it, and he said, I'm still gonna release the letter, and then they said, well, you know, you might wonder, by the way, why hasn't anybody just killed him?
Mm-hmm.
If they're
Right.
really doing this
Yeah.
stuff,
Or have they? Because we haven't heard from Don.
nobody knows
2013.
about Donald Marshall until now. Just kill him, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They don't want that on their consciousness, is what he said.
They're
What?
fine with raping.
Nobody
babies.
wants to
They
be
were like
responsible
raping
for
and
his
torturing
death, right?
children.
Which, by the way, he's
They're
a clone.
murdering celebrities.
He's a clone, so you know.
They don't.
Is he even
okay.
human? Do clones have rights? Right.
I mean, they've been killing them already, so
Okay.
they just discard
That's a
the
Star
fucked
Trek
up
Next
ones.
Generation question.
And
Okay.
so eventually he says, you know, they kept torturing him and talking to him, and they ran out of things to talk to him about. So they asked him, "What's better, Pop-Tarts or toaster strudel?"
What?
What'd he say?
I had to turn
If he
it off,
said
to
fucking,
be honest.
if he said fucking Pop-Tarts, he's literally
the
insane.
Yeah.
second I heard that, I had to turn it off.
I
I'll be
was
honest.
expecting a very serious, like,
I
deep
was too.
question.
Right.
But
Right.
and with that, we're gonna go into the final part of it. Where is Donald Marshall today?
Where is Donald Marshall today? Well, he's still active on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really heard much about cloning centers, but Connor and
did
I
they
have looked at
replace
some
him?
of his tweets.
Did they
Well,
replace
that's a
him?
great question. We have a very docile Donald Marshall on Twitter.
no.
He's D Marshall Truth at Twitter.
Twitter.
And most of his posts, like his most recent post 22 hours ago, Nova Scotia being hit by a Hurricane Dorian now.
Maybe he got like help. Maybe he got
Out
mental
sick
help.
September 5th. Happy
August.
Labor Day, September 2nd.
August 20th, though.
Of this year? Oh.
A show called
He
Edge
still
of Wonder
dabbles.
have made a short documentary about me and cloning. They got most of it right. It's only a half hour. Check it out.
Oh. Maybe he's working on
He
it.
does seem like he's calmed down quite a bit.
Yeah, but we go back
he's
to August 10th.
legitimately getting
Wow,
help, but good for him.
Illuminati getting pretty slack these days.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Epstein
okay.
Gurney photos faked. Let me throw these up on the screen.
Yeah, you need to see this.
Epstein Gurney photos faked.
Oh, Jesus.
The New York. Okay, so
I
this
haven't
is.
seen that photo.
I don't know if I necessarily want to show this because it does show a dead body.
Well, we're already displaying.
well, this
so-
barely shows it. Okay, throw that off the screen.
Sign says, please turn off engines when it clearly probably says machines.
And it says
Yeah.
Epstein's head is way too big and the body does not match the head.
Doesn't even
Obvious
show the body.
Photoshop. It doesn't show the body.
No.
This filthy wall would not be in any hospital anywhere.
Oh, boo. Go to a hospital.
Right. Come to St. Louis and come to a city hospital that's been around for
Yeah.
decades.
That's got
This
people
is in
in
New
and out
York, right? Isn't he
constantly.
like in New York where he was in jail? Or am
Yeah.
I wrong? Yeah. So it's a filthy hospital.
Also,
I
can I just
guarantee it.
say? Can I just say it says New York Fire Department Gurneys, and that guy's literally wearing an FDNY shirt. So why would it not be Fire
Right.
Department
Right.
Gurneys?
Yeah, that's weird.
And I
Compressed air hose. What does that even mean?
It does just say compressed
There's
air hose
pictures
here.
of Epstein. I don't want you to show this
I
one
won't.
page because it is a close up of
I
it.
won't.
It shows Epstein alive, Epstein dead, Epstein alive, Epstein dead, and it's got a side by side, and it's just like got lines drawn on his ears and nose.
And his nose showing that they're slightly different.
They're slightly. I mean, one's a dead
Shapes.
body though. I'm not.
Yeah.
Tried Domino's pizza for the first time. Pretty
is my
good.
favorite
Sauce is
one.
savory. I like Pizza Hut better
Oh,
though.
no.
There it
Let me
is.
show this. Throw this up. On
I don't
screen.
think that's Domino's.
That's not a Domino's
Domino's
pizza.
For
doesn't
one,
make
the
that.
boxes
Look, let's zoom in.
are brown. Okay.
Oh, I can't.
Domino's boxes are not brown.
I can't.
They
zoom
don't
in.
put whole ass beautiful tomatoes.
That sauce is
on.
not Domino's
now,
sauce.
Now he does
Yeah.
live in Canada, so maybe they do.
Maybe it's a different kind of
you know.
Domino's.
Please read just one more time for full effect. Read that tweet.
Tried Domino's pizza for the first time. Pretty good. Sauce is savory. I like Pizza Hut better though.
Oh.
So that's what Don's tweeting about these days.
And
Maybe
now-
he's getting help. He sounds a little calmer sometimes.
Yes,
And that's the thing,
honestly,
is
that's
that,
the
like,
thing.
maybe good
we
for
don't know
him.
if Don is severely mentally ill and he has
Yeah.
schizophrenia
Yeah.
or some type of other mental. You know, maybe needs to get help, or if Don's in it for some type of profit. He doesn't necessarily seem to be. At one point, he hadn't written a book about it. He has definitely now.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can buy
That's
it
the
digitally.
thing. That's the thing is that he's saying all of this crazy shit, right?
Mhm.
Which could be he is mentally ill, and if that's the case, we're
right,
not.
right
This is not a mean spirited thing or
No,
anything like
no,
that.
No.
He does need to get help, but also like he does seem kind of sane at times, and
Yeah.
maybe a little strange, but normal otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. And you know,
I at the beginning you were reading something from his like manifesto,
Yeah.
and you had made like the pyramid of the Illuminati. I just want to make sure I have this right. It's Freemasons and Scientologists.
yes,
And the
That
Illuminati.
collective-
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that
That collectively
made
become-
up
Let me
Yeah.
read
the
that
Illuminati,
again.
right? Okay, I just wanted to make
We
sure.
have. I've been cloned by a large secretive cult known as the Freemasons and Vril Society and Scientologists, together called the Illuminati.
Okay, I
We'll
didn't know
get
that's what
into
made
the
up
Vril.
the
He
Illuminati.
He does in all of his interviews. Connor can verify this. He says Illuminati.
yeah.
Well, that's how you have to say it.
If you want to play that little clip of him real fast that you have,
Oh yeah, let's hear him.
Which one?
the one where he's being interviewed, but it looks like he's just rambling into a
Yeah, but that's
camera.
an hour-long video.
Well,
which
just a
part?
little clip of it. That one clip that we were listening
Yeah,
to.
you can at least see him.
I want to see him and hear his
and
voice.
various deeds that she's done at the cloning stage.
All right, let me zoom out. 1 second. Let me get to the part I want you to hear because around 3 minutes he starts talking about how they get the DNA, which is what Connor wasn't able to find the exact quote for.
They
Mhm.
used to use kids' foreskins that were discarded at the hospital that got removed. That's what happened to me. But now they said they've
How does he know that?
upgraded the technology.
How does he know
in
who's
10
made from a
years.
foreskin?
And his REM
But
dreams.
what they used to do with the tissue, well, they could also, they used to set this little oil drill looking thing over a person's forearm, strap their arm to a chair. And this drill, it had things on it that opened up, right? Now, it would go in, and when it spun, these things would open up. But then when it stopped, the things would close again. Now this is done. It goes in, comes out, in, comes out. And what it was doing, it has to agitate the tissue. They told me when I was a kid, to a certain degree. I guess like they said, the easiest way to tell a person in layman's terms about it is, you know, when you have a hangnail and you pull it off, the white stuff that accumulates inside, and eventually it'll form like a scab and new skin and it'll grow over. Well, to get that white stuff to really work good, they agitate the tissue a certain amount of times. Now they just agitate blood from like a blood sample even.
So honestly, this is just going to
Okay.
be rambling and rambling
Yep.
and rambling.
All right.
Yep.
So, which is why it's really hard to sift through this information, and that is actually why this is probably going to be part 1 of our Donald Marshall.
I mean, we
discussion.
have barely even
We
scratched the
barely.
surface. We've
scratched
given
the
you the
surface.
That's a lot.
overview.
That's
This
a lot.
isn't Don's only conspiracy either, and
Yeah.
and
Of
all
course
of his
not.
conspiracies interconnect. All of them come together. We haven't even thrown out all the names of people that have been involved. Let's just say, Connor, I'm going to say right now,
Say it.
a certain little man that you may love from movies like The Fast and the Furious, who's dead.
I wonder
may
who it could be.
involved. Okay, but we'll save that for next time on Connor's
Woo, 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 woo.
conspiracy.
No, this is
corner.
the clone zone.
This is the clone
It
zone
will
now.
be the
Connor's clone zone.
Connor's
Yeah.
clone zone. That'll probably be what we
Here on
continue
out.
with next week. But that about concludes it, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
for
Yeah.
this week's.
It's a lot of nonsense,
is a lot to sort through.
and it's going to be a lot more.
I feel like we
nonsense.
got a good introduction to it, but it's almost like we need to spend an entire podcast on
Just this guy.
Just this guy.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
But
All right.
for now, that's where we're gonna leave it.